We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams. I have a dream. By any means necessary, I will fight no more forever. This is a comic book, mainly used for entertainment. 7.5 inches by about 10 inches. This is a notebook. According to this, it's 10.5 inches by 8 inches. It's usually blank, has lines in it. Some don't. And this is a Bristol board. Okay? Bigger sheets of this are used to make comic books. And people sketch and stuff on them. Ink. Brushes. Pens. And these can either be tools or they can be weapons that are loaded with ideas. Okay? Over the years on here on this channel and stuff, I've talked about comics and the whole idea of messages and the themes in them and the history of comic books and the history of behind the scenes in comics. As a guy who's collected for a long time, I've collected since 1977, and every now and then there's been a little like a drama and stuff. And I always say I don't like the drama. Well, the truth is I don't like the pointless drama. If there's an issue going on, or if there's something worth saying that requires a little bit of standing up to somebody or something like that, okay, it happens, right? And this video in particular has been building up since March 20th, 2015. Probably a few days before that and stuff, because around that time, this cover got banned from DC, and it was a variant cover. And instead of people knowing comics in the context and realizing that this was going back to the Killing Joke, which was huge for Batgirl, with the Joker there, even though he's dressed exactly like he was in the Killing Joke with what he did to her and stuff, people were offended and want to say this was like rape, took away the choice of other people. There's a whole big thing, and it caused a little bit of stir. And my video and my petition that I started got quoted in Entertainment Weekly online. And Vox.com came after me, man. Okay? In their articles and stuff, with some of the stuff that, that I was included in. And that's alright, because that's how things are supposed to be. Somebody says something, somebody goes their way, and they get their ideas out and stuff. But what's happened is that the whole idea of comics, this has been spurned by things that have happened since then. A video that I saw by comicbook.com, a video that I just watched today, where the guy was kind of trying to be the opposition to what's making the marketplace and comics shrink, and the leftist social justice warriors and stuff, his words and stuff, and he got his facts all wrong, which was still blowing my mind. And a couple things that have happened to me where I live. It's one of those things where I think I got something to say. I never wanted to really be the person to bring up this topic and stuff, but it's time to say something, And I live in a place where we got Virginia Tech, we got Radford University, we got a bunch of community colleges and stuff, and so the things that are going on in the college campuses, and this whole social justice warrior movement, and the millennials being easily offended, and the collectivism of having the bad guy being white males, and especially older white males, and all this just ridiculous stuff that is going on out there and stuff like that has finally bled into comics, and I've seen it coming, and I've kept an open mind and met people. You can go back and reference 2 of my videos, okay? Probably about a year ago, I said it, Howlermouse meets a white knight, and I was all open-minded, and I want to hear his ideas, and he recognized me through my channel. And he was a college professor, and this was at a comic book convention being held on his campus, And he told me about having this safe place for all these girls to come and talk about comics, and he led the thing. And I was open-minded, and I could tell he was wanting a little back and forth with me there and stuff, but I wanted to hear what they do and what's this all about. I'm not going to listen to everything online, and tumblers and all that stuff, I wanted to see it with my eyes and see what was going on. And he really kind of shied away from that. And I made it positive in my video, and was like making sure there wasn't anything else, it was just kind of drama. The second video was one I made a few weeks ago where I got an SJW, and you can go watch the video, had messaged me about making a video about the history of transgender people and fluid gender, and all this stuff, and make a video of it, the history and stuff. But I made it clear there was an agenda, and in both these videos, I did get complimented in the comments for handling it very well. Well, I'm going to play the rest of the story now. I'm going to be Paul Harvey for a minute here, right? The rest of the story is that college professor who did not want me to come to the safe place and the meetings and stuff with the girls and stuff, and that was fine, it was no big deal. What I got told by people on the campus there is that the guy more or less was basically he got a group of girls in there. They were all cut off from guys. He was the only male in the group, and he had done an old hunting tactic. He had separated the weak from the rest of the herd, if you will, and was kind of grooming them. I don't know if he got in trouble or not, but it was a thing. The other thing is that the rest of that letter that I put out there, and the reason I put it in an olive branch out there, is that it was very aggressive. And if I had not done the video the way that this person's agenda wanted it to be, somewhere along the line something's going to get wrote about me or told about me or something about being cisphobic. That's blackmail, that's extortion, and that's not going to work with me. So, I didn't want to be oppositional. I wanted to keep it going and stuff. But this stuff is now affecting comics, and it's bleeding into there, and it's turning into an elephant in the room with certain circles of people that I know that, collect comics and stuff. And we're talking specifically like about Marvel. The diversity thing. The comicbook.com video that I watched, you can go to their YouTube channel. That's the name of their YouTube channel, man. Did this big thing about the diversity in comic books. And how, the female Thor and this and that and everything that's going on with them. And then they started doing, getting really aggressive and misinformation, talking about how the Marvel Universe has always been lily white. And then they showed a picture of the people from the 60s who made the comics. And they're like, looks like they're having dinner or something. And they put down there saying the white males that were oppressing people on purpose and stuff. And that's where I had it, because what's going on is that it's all the misinformation and not knowing what the hell you're talking about as a marketing ploy to try to get people to get into comics, the young people, that young demographic, by the buzzwords of SJW and diversity and feminism and stuff. They don't believe in this stuff, but they think this is what's going to get views. They are again catering to an invisible audience, and I talked about the invisible audience in my DC rant couple months ago and stuff, right? They're back. They are catering and changing these comic books and stuff to an audience that is not there, thinking they're going to get a new audience. And the people who have kept their companies going and come back for these stories and interact and have a whole, I'm going to say, a culture, of a hobby, a culture here and stuff like that, they're just kind of like putting them to the side, and they're not getting replaced. The people that they are catering to, these social justice warriors, are all about identity and having something they can hold up. They're not into comics. They don't read comics. Thus, they're not buying them. If they were, the entire market share of comics as it stands right now would not be shrinking. Okay? And Marvel took a pounding by DC this month. DC's rebirth. DC snapped out of it, man. They gave everybody diversity and these new place to jump on, even though it was, in my opinion, handled pretty bad with DC 52, proclaimed it a failure, and now they're like, we're sorry, here we go, and we'll go on with DC Rebirth. And they've told you that this is going to come to a climax in 2 years. All the books are going to go to they're kind of dovetail into some bigger story in 2 years. They're giving you an idea. And it's all like marketing and stuff. DC said even with their 52, they gave you diversity, and they had to cancel books left and right, according to them, because nobody was buying it. Everybody yelled they wanted it. They gave it to them. Nobody bought it. And then the other thing was, keep my frame of mind here and stuff, is that, diversity has always been in comics. That's what kills me. They're acting like there's never been anything. And when I talk about diversity in comics, I'm not just talking about the characters and the ideas and things. I'm talking about the people who make comics. When they put up that picture of Jack Kirby and all those lily white males in the 60s who are making these comics and making this lily white universe and stuff like that, they're Jewish. They're Jewish. Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, Jack Kirby, Jewish. Stan Lee, I think he's Jewish. I'm not sure. You know, I'm willing to be corrected on that one. You know, I'm not. You know, these are Jewish people. These are people who came in as kids from the streets. Literally the streets. A lot of them were very poor. They started drawing on freaking paper bags and stuff as kids, doing these comic strips and stuff. And they made the rules of comic books. They were creating these heroes. They were getting these tools, man, and they were making a living. They wanted to feed their family, man. And a lot of people were into art. They were artists and stuff. Okay, Joe Kubert and all these guys, Will Eisner. All the names, they were creating characters. They were responding to the war. In Superman is the story of immigration. A kid who came, it's the retelling of Moses. He came from a planet and came to America as an immigrant, is how people looked at it. A lot of people looked at it. He's been compared to a Christ figure and an immigrant story of coming to America from another place and, you know, taking up the ideals of patriotism and stuff. When Superman started, he was a social justice warrior. He fought things like slumlords and mobs and stuff like that. It was real people and stuff. Then it gradually went into mad scientist, and then with the war, it turned into other things with the radio station and stuff. It was all there. These people are marketing by changing history. And the biggest thing that really bothers me is the creators are starting to do this. I've seen with the Ghostbusters movie with all the female cast, and I've seen with Brian Bendis with what he's done in some of his comics. He turns around and they point a finger. You know, all these changes are probably coming from above to market to other people, telling these creators what to do. And I'm imagining, this is why I didn't want to, I'm sure this is how I would picture it, man. If your job, you feel like your job's in jeopardy, like they give you shit and they tell you to, you know, right, you can't even make lemonade out of shit and make these books sell and stuff like that, and you're writing away doing what somebody else has told you when you're the writer, and you can't make it work. The market share is falling. You're taking a beating from other companies and stuff like that. What's the new marketing tactic? Pointing a finger at the audience and pissing them off, telling them they're all racist, they're all misogynist, and they're just horrible people, and because they don't like what they're doing. Since when do you tell your audience what they're going to like instead of responding to what they're buying? Okay, that's just a fact. You know, that's how your audience communicates to you, and through letters and stuff like that. You know, and it's bullshit. I'm not going to be guilted in anything. I'm not going to be labeled as anything. If you're writing shit, you're writing shit, and it's showing. And everybody's acting like everything is just great. We're being, you know, we got diversity and we got this, we got that. There's been diversity in comics. I want to see the diversity of ideas again, okay? Because this is Jack Kirby. You go through Jack Kirby's, you know, this is a man who, this is why that video by comicbook.com pissed me off, right? If that was Jack Kirby in the picture, they said here, and this is a man who went to, you know, who grew up poor, who got into comics. He did a little bit of animation, you know, worked with Will Eisner just a tad. Started creating comics, and this man ended up like, he created the romance comic with Joe Simon. He created this is the man that drew Captain America #1 with Captain America punching Hitler before we were even in the war. This was a man who actually went to World War II and said they had they gave him a chocolate bar and a rifle and said go kill Hitler, and he tried. Then he comes back and he keeps working. He married his girlfriend Roz Kirby. And you want to talk about, you know, a couple that were meant to be. There was no first and secondary positions in that marriage. They were partners. All right? Kirby did the work, and Roz was right there. If there was like a big deal going down on some kind of business deal or something going on, there's been many people that said that old Kirby would sit there and give his wife the look, and then she would give him the look back to take it or not and stuff. They were partners, okay? This is not the person to sit here and try to make the face of the devil as making a lily white universe and stuff like that. And this man, the ideas that he had, this book right here goes through all the things that Kirby has done that came out of his head. And that's what's missing from comics, the diversity of ideas. Comics have had martial arts. Okay, we had Chun, you know, the Korean master of Sunanju here, right? They pulled from the books of Destroyer and stuff, right? We've had horror books, you know. We've had adult sci-fi comics and stuff, black and white magazines, people exploring things. We've had fantasy with just all kinds of fantasy creatures, little elf people and dragons and all this stuff. I'm oversimplifying it. And then in 1990, we've got Give Me Liberty of Martha Washington. Okay? This is the damn story that you need to read if you're yelling there's never been diversity in comics and stuff. Okay? It's always been there. Has it ever been handled before? No, but not well. Okay, 70s were awful, man. It smacks of tokenism that's popped up before when they've tried this stuff. Every black character had to have black put in front of his name, stuff like that. And but we came a long way. We ended up having Milestone Comics, which was a whole universe set, created by Dwayne McDuffie. Okay. It's always been there. You just had to look for it. We've imported comics from Japan, Lone Wolf and Cub, that influenced people like Frank Miller and so many people, samurai movies and stuff, right? We've had a diversity of Bone and stuff like that, cartoon books, that go back and harken into it. You've had Watchmen, right, that touched on the whole... This thing is so deep and so layered. This is everything that can be done in a comic that can't be done in movies and stuff. And then you have the whole idea of they could reach into philosophy, just of Nietzsche, and the whole idea of things being black and white, the philosophy, and things, do they have meaning or not? Is everything predetermined? I mean, this gets into some philosophy. You really want to get into it, and it's full of freaking knotheads. The gangs that run around have gotten... The gangs of in this period all have knots on top of their head, man buns, if you will, inspired by samurais and stuff like that. And it talks about the Gordian knot. I mean, there's things in here you have to be educated and have read before and read things outside of comic books to get where they're coming from. But the irony here is that the knotheads in this represent that Gordian knot. And lateral thinking came in through because the person who cut that knot, everybody's trying to figure out how do you untie it. He took a sword and he just cut it loose. And that's what's going on. We're back to being a whole generation of the knotheads in here that need their mind freed and stuff, right? Stray Bullets, crime comics and stuff. You had John Henry Irons in here and Johnny Cloud having some of the best stories in New Frontier, going back to the Silver Age, and actually reflecting some of the social issues that they had to face and stuff like that. You got the Ku Klux Klan going after John Henry in this and stuff, right? So it's been dealt with. Has it been dealt with great? It got better as it went over time. It was evolving. People were being comfortable. People were seeing that there were stories there to tell. You had Rhodes, James Rhodes, I think it's his name. James Rhodes take over the role of Iron Man in the 80s, and they explored what is it like for a black man to be, expecting how people were going to react, finding out that he was Iron Man now and stuff. It was touched on in Secret Wars. It was touched on in the Iron Man book and stuff like that. There were stories there, and they were trying. And it was, getting there. It was an evolution. It was new, and it was actually going forward, and it was getting better. So it has happened. It has been there. And the whole thing about it is that the people that are doing this, they act like children. Okay, they try to yell and scream over you talking. All right, what they need to do is to shut up, ask questions, and listen, instead of acting like this is how it's going to be. Because the man who said it by every means necessary even found out that was not the way to go about things. Okay? He traveled across the ocean and got surrounded and ended up interacting with just Muslims from all around the world, and looked at a blonde-haired and blue-eyed man that was looking back at him, and he did not see an ounce of hate, and realized what he's doing is not the way to go about it. And that's the whole deal. The two words I really want to put out there is rebellion and conformity. Okay? And what is going on is when you rebel, it sounds like it's just so bad. But rebellion is where you start thinking for yourself. You start pushing the boundaries, and you've stopped just being gullible, thinking that everything you've ever been told and anything you've ever been taught is set in stone. And you learn who you are. And you learn boundaries, and you learn why things are the way they are sometimes. It's a different journey for everybody. And that's the time where you're supposed to really mess up. You're supposed to mess up. You're supposed to do stupid things. You learn consequences. There's just so much that comes out of that. And we do that. That's what we're supposed to do. And this whole generation of social justice warriors, these people on safe spaces that are on their college campuses and all this stuff like that, they're not rebelling. They've handed their power over to these professors teaching these gender studies and all these things that are coming down, and they don't listen to other people. And what I have learned is that they act like children. They yell over you. They talk over you. They scream at you when you tell them something you don't want to hear, like a 4-year-old. And being a father, what I have learned the most, and I'm sure I was the same way, was that you want to see a kid really go off is when they yell, treat me like an adult, and when you do treat them like an adult, they flip out. Okay? And that's what it feels like it's going. When I hear these people and they're and want to be pandered to, and they think something's offensive, they think it's supposed to be done now. Where's your rebellion? You have just let your mind get brainwashed and filled full of shit, and you're trying to change everybody instead of yourself. It's a trend, and with some people are kept jumping on because it's trendy. This is the market now. This is how they think things are supposed to be and stuff. And then you have conformity. After you get through your rebellion and you get that out of your system and you start accepting a few things, not everything, there's things where this comes up where there are things that need to change and to progress, and that's why we survive, But you get to a point where it's conformity. This is where you cut your hair. This is where you start dressing a little bit nicer. This is where you get a job, You found your own path. And if you still hold on to these ideals that you held on so strongly to, that you believed in and stuff, you learn that real change comes from conforming, becoming part of the system, and changing it from the inside. Because there is nothing more that I hate than an activist, because I'm a social worker, and I've seen these activists and I've talked to them, because what they do is they brainwash people, saying that they have a cause, and what they're doing is bringing awareness to the cause, and what they're really doing is making it about them, making themselves sort of have this status, this celebrity, and people listen to them and they get freaking power hungry. They go crazy with the power that they now have, and people start feeding their head. They feed on each other. All right, they start believing their own bullshit because nobody's telling them no, and they're telling them how great they are in this bullshit. Where's the cause you were fighting for? You don't have a face on it. Now, I shot this video a week ago, but there's too much venom in it. I went too far, okay? And I know there's more things I could say to this point that were really good in those, but the tone was there, but I kind of want to just drop it. It's one of those things I really got to get out of my system. I have met some of these people face to face. There's a lot more people to meet, different, I'm not going to sit here and act like they're all like this, but my experiences have led to what I'm saying now, okay? Face-to-face experiences. So here's a little message that I think. You let the artists and the creators create. I read a book by Mark Twain when I was 16 called, I think, Letters from the Earth, and found out that Mark Twain was an atheist. I grew up on Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. Huck Finn is now banned in, libraries and stuff. And it's the whole thing about ideas. You get to let them get a foothold and change things and start up the censorship stuff. And I've heard it's one of the things I've heard about censorship is we got to protect children. Parents need to protect children. People need to protect children. It still needs to be there. But censorship is not the way, But anyway, these ideas were out there and stuff. So I read Letters from the Earth. I started realizing that Mark Twain is atheist, which just kind of killed me at the time. I don't know why. And it was a big, heavy read because it was the letters of a man writing to somebody in heaven, and they're back and forth of talking about religion. And what I started seeing, the way I interpret it, is that, number one, it made me think about something I've never really thought about before. And it had me get the idea that I don't think that the way I was interpreting is Mark Twain, even though he's saying he's an atheist, what I saw in there was that he was having problems with dogma and the hypocrisy of people. And the whole point of me saying that is that these are the ideas of interpretation. This is diversity of ideas. I'd rather see a diversity of ideas and be able to think for myself and have something that makes you think. Not something that's preachy, not somebody acting like everything's in black and white, not telling me what I can think and what I can read and what I can't do. And these are just comics. This is for entertainment, But they get a foothold in here, and then all of a sudden they're going to be gone. The marketplace is crashing. The people who want these books changed and want all this diversity don't buy comics. And the people like me and other people and stuff like that, we've been labeled the bad guys, labeled. So what I want you to do, this is my message to them, is that get some paper, get a pencil, get some ink, get some pens, get some brushes, get some paper, make your own damn comics the way you think they ought to be, instead of telling the people who do create how they should be creating. Alright? Shut your mouth, listen for a change, ask questions, and be willing to go back and forth instead of just screaming like a 4-year-old at people and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'm sure I can go on and stuff, but let's not try to change history for an agenda. Let's not try to label people like they try to do Jack Kirby and those guys that created comics in the past as something they weren't, and stop, you know. And if you're going to talk about comics, about issues like this, the only thing I ask, because it discredits you when you mess up, is that actually read the comics. Because the video that made me go ahead and decide to do this video again, even though I tried it last week and I've got it sitting there and it was too much, was the man who was sitting there referring to the Falcon as the Raven, and a lot of other stuff he said in there that just wasn't right. You know, this man has never picked up a comic in his life. You know, if you don't read the comics, kind of maybe stick to the subjects you do know. Alright, because it really discredits you. People can come at you with logic and reason and facts and dismantle you. And that's why this whole diversity and social justice warrior smoke and mirrors thing, marketing ploys and trendiness that they've turned some very serious issues into, that's why they're going to disappear. Because everything they are saying can be debunked with logic and fact and reason. And doing a little research on these intellectually lazy people who just believe anything they read on the internet. You know, it's just bad. And I'm assuming some people know what I'm talking about, some don't. But all I'm going to ask is that, did I piss you off, or do I have you thinking? Are you ready to lash out at me and yell at me? Or are you going to dismiss this video? Or is it really kind of got you thinking like, yeah, you know, choice is yours, man.